Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, 320 Sim Pilot, and today something a bit different and quite exciting for you. We're going to be looking at the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. So this is providing head and eye tracking in Microsoft Flight Simulator, as well as lots and lots of other compatible games. So in this video I'm going to be using it in Microsoft Flight Simulator to show you exactly where I'm looking and also to show you how I can use the head tracking to help with the sort of immersion and the realistic use of these aircraft in the simulators. This is a sponsored video, so thank you to Tobii for sending over the eye tracker and for sponsoring the video. It's something I've wanted to try out for a while, so yeah, it's something I'm really excited to show you, and it's a really remarkable piece of technology and something quite special. So I'm looking forward to showing you, and also throughout the video I'm going to use it in Reno air races. We'll also have a look at the Airbus, of course, and I'll talk about what I might be using it for in the future of the channel, because it gives us a lot of opportunities, a lot of interesting opportunities when I can show you not only the head tracking, so I can more naturally look around the cockpits and get better camera angles like that, but it also provides us with an opportunity for me to show you exactly where I'm looking, where my eyes are focused when flying, which is a big part of aviation. It's something that trainers do a lot when they're training new pilots. They look very carefully where the trainee is looking. It's really important, and it's certainly going to be useful, I think, for us on this channel. So the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is, like I say, a head and eye tracker. It's a piece of hardware. It just plugs in via USB-A into your computer, and then you can use it to, like I say, look where your head is pointing as well as your eyes. It's very easy to calibrate through the software, and what we're going to look at today is the hardware, the unboxing and setup of the software, as well as trying out, of course, flying in the simulator. It's compatible with lots and lots of games, so it's just going to be Microsoft Flight Simulator for today's video, but I'm sure we'll find excuses to use it in other things such as Digital Combat Simulator. So starting off, let's take a look at the unboxing and then the software. So first of all, here is the box it comes in, and as you can see, it's quite a slimline package. I was expecting something a bit bigger, really. It's sort of the theme of this hardware is how small and slim it is. Very impressive considering all of the different sensors and so on that seem to be included in it, and I've been very pleasantly surprised by how unobtrusive it is on my setup. So here you go, you've got the actual eye tracker itself, and you can see there it runs off a USB-A cable, runs off the side of it, and then there's a few bits of information around the box, just giving you an idea of what you're actually holding in your hands once you get it out. But yeah, as I said, the theme of this product is that it's very slim. Quite impressive how much fits into it. So let's get this opened up and have a look on the inside. Something to note about this is that it can be used with over 160 supported games at the moment, which is quite impressive, and there will be a sale on this coming up. Details will be in the description of the video. So here it is, and as we open it up, you see we have the actual tracker itself. As I said, much smaller than you would anticipate, or certainly smaller than I did, and it pops out of here. It has a bit of a magnetic mounting system on the back of it, and then the mount comes in the other part of the box. So I just put it out there. It comes a USB-A cable provided, built into it, and then it also has an extension USB-A cable in the box as well if you need to run it further. But for my setup, I haven't had to do that. I've got it plugged straight in with just the USB-A cable it came with, because it's sitting on below my monitor, so quite close to my desktop, which is on my actual desk. Here's some more instructions on how to set it up, both if you have a laptop system where you would fit the magnetic mount to the bottom of the screen where it sort of glues on, or the system that I'm going to use, which is where I use the 3M sort of Velcro tape to secure it on the bottom of my monitor. So my setup is a curved monitor. It's a 32-inch curved monitor. So just to prove to you it works, here it is set up. So as you can see, it's fitted onto a mount which has two Velcro patches that then pop underneath the monitor, and then it's actually magnetically held onto that mount. So the mount is velcroed onto the monitor, and then the actual eye tracker just pops on. So you can remove it if you want to, or move it to a different computer or whatever else you're planning to do with it, but I'm not expecting to change it around much. I'm just going to leave it sort of secured onto the monitor like this, which is handy. It's slim, and it doesn't get in the way. I've been, like I say, really impressed with how unobstructive it is on my setup. And as I said, that is a 32-inch curved monitor that you're seeing it fitted to at the moment. So for the software side of things, once we have it all set up, very straightforward. I went to the Tobii website and downloaded these programs. So there's 3 I've got running, but you actually don't need all 3. I've got Tobii Experience, which comes with the camera. This is just what you use to set it up. You make a little account, and then in here you can calibrate it, tell it which screen you're using, which is very handy, of course. And it's very easy to calibrate. I was so impressed. Really, really very good. So that's what I've done so far in there. And then it gives you some links to give you tips on what else to do. Next, I've got the Tobii Game Hub, and in here it has the games that you have installed that are compatible with it. As you can see, I don't have many of them, but there's a whole list here. This is all available on the website for those of you interested in other games, although of course this is primarily a flight simulation channel, so nice to see we of course have Microsoft Flight Simulator and DCS World, and it detected both of those itself. You'll notice Microsoft Flight Simulator has native support, so it doesn't actually need anything in here. DCS World has this little enabled option. I haven't used it yet in DCS, but Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't really do anything because it's all built into the simulator now. Finally, I have the Tobii Ghost software. This is important for me for being able to show you where my eyes are looking. So the eye tracking will work regardless of this, but this is so that you can show that. And again, really impressed. So simple. You can just click on this button and it guides you how to add it into your OBS. And then you suddenly have the gaze, which you'll see. And then we can change the size of the bubble, the responsiveness trail, and the color. Of course, we've gone for a nice neon pink. So that's the software side of things. Totally easy to set up. I was really impressed, and I often struggle with these things. So crucial things when setting it up in Microsoft Flight Simulator. If I go to my control options, I need to scroll along at the top to make sure it is there. And there it is, Tobii. This came in by default with Tobii profile. You can't see anything else, but you go to sensitivity. And then you can adjust things like the eye versus head tracking ratio. So I've got it focused. It starts at default of 0.85. I focused it more on the head tracking, less on the eye tracking. So still a little bit of eye tracking, but a bit less. I've also got the auto center turned off, which would naturally drag it back to the middle. I haven't found the need for that. And then you've got things like sensitivity. So obviously for roll, just having it at 1 is fine. But these are all things that you can adjust, and Tobii have some recommended settings for that. Then also in the keyboard profile, what I've had to do is make sure that I have the head tracking set up. So toggle head tracking. Oh, it's not in my keyboard profile. Sorry, it's on my joystick. Currently the profile I'm using. In here, I have the head tracking set to a button. And then also useful to have is the eye tracking reset. That just resets the head position. But frankly, I'm going to keep trying this out because I think you might not need to do that. But anyway, there we go. So that is what I've got set up. Here we are in the sim now. And as you can see, oh, airplane's underway. Let's get that stopped. As you can see, all as normal, dragging the mouse around to look around. But if I enable tracking with my button on my joystick, this is the head tracking. There we go, straight in. But you'll notice I'm sitting a little bit low, so I can recenter the camera, and then I can actually recenter the eye tracking position. There we go, and it starts. So now what I'm going to do is enable the overlay for you guys, so you can see hopefully where I'm looking. There we go. So I'm holding my head still now, and then I can use my eyes to look around the flight deck, as you can see. And it drags the camera slightly in that direction. This is useful, so if I want to look down at the instrument panel without tilting my head down, it just gives me a little bit of that natural sort of glancing in the right direction. But as I said, it can be a bit oversensitive if you have it tuned the wrong way, so I've actually reduced its effectiveness just to give me a little bit of a glance in the right direction to keep the camera relatively stable. But the whole time, my head, now I'm moving my head, is constantly being monitored, and as you can see, it's very precise. So if I look back forward, it does look back. It's got a little bit of it feels like a little bit of a lock in the middle, which is sort of what you want. That's how I had my software set up in the past, and it's yeah, very easily done. So I can look around. Now I'm going to probably, when I'm flying the Airbus, get rid of this full. I don't need to be able to look over my shoulder like that. It's not something we do in an airliner. But for flying in the Reno air races, which is how we're going to start off today, it's certainly a useful feature, and I can imagine it will be in flying Air 14 as well. But yeah, pretty cool. And then I can obviously just move my head around. You've got all the range. You might lose my audio in the in the microphone as I move my head around. But yeah, it's not being blocked by my microphone or my glasses. So that's something I'm very pleased to say, that if you wear glasses, this is no issue at all. I'm using them for today's video to make sure that it would work. And then you can actually adjust the zoom yourself anyway, which is quite handy. And then I can still move my head around and in. So yeah, lots of different ways to have it set up. And I think you'll spend a bit of time getting tuned to that. The eye tracking is something I'm going to talk about, especially later on with the Airbus. But yeah, you can see exactly where I'm looking. So if I look around the canopy, or I can look at that sign over there, just see runway 26. The reason my head camera keeps swinging around is because what happens is I'm moving my head over, and then I'm not moving the microphone with me. So that's the only thing that's happening there. It's really, really impressive. It's so natural and is it's just so surprisingly accurate. I'm very pleased with that. And like I say, look at that, 0826. I can't actually see the ghost on my screen. I have it turned off, so I've got it set up on my recording software, not on my actual screen. So I can't see that ghost, but you can see exactly where my eyes are going. If I look down at the Garmin down there, look at the PFD. I'm amazed how well that works, considering all I did was calibrate it for about 1 second. Or it takes, I think it took under a minute to calibrate it. It's brilliant. You might be wondering what it does in the outside view. So I can still swing the camera around, but then as I do that, I can also move my head. I think that's going to be quite useful for making videos, actually. I think I could get some fun sort of camera effects out of that, but still works the same way with the hat switch and the zoom, but I can just use my head to adjust it slightly, or I can just press the off button and it will just recenter into the normal position for the camera. So you have the choice there. If you're not going to be using it all the time, you can just recenter it like that, which is very nice. Sorry, not recenter. You can just turn it on and off just with that one button click, and then we can turn it back on, get our camera back. Very cool. And like I say, I can see a lot of use for this in the flying around in the cockpits of these aircraft, especially the Reno air races sort of missions where you're needing to look around you, see who's over your shoulder, see who's above you. Very cool, very natural, and much quicker than using the hat switch. You can just snap back where you want it. Let's go and give it a try in a race. Right, so let's take the blue ice for a spin on the time trial. As you can see where I'm actually looking, which is a very strange feeling for me while recording these videos, but there we go. There's the weather conditions. This is the world top 10, 7:15 to beat, so this is going to be quite an intense mission. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to use the head tracking to allow me to look around the cockpit, get a sense of where the pylons are coming, get a view around them, and then I've got the eye tracking just to help nudge it in the right direction as I want it to. Right, let's go. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just recenter that head position. There we go. Right. Full power on. And let's get going. So hopefully you can see exactly where I'm looking, as well as obviously my head is what I'm using to control the camera. I'm not having to maneuver my joystick at all. And as you can see, it's an impressively smooth, not my flying, but an impressively smooth feat of head tracking. I'm so pleased with that side of it and how well it's allowing me. Let's get some nose it down trim, and then I can already be looking at the next one, not moving my camera at all myself, just using entirely the head tracking. What I really like is that it lets me, my hand is entirely on the flying now. I'm not having to maneuver the little hat switch at all, and I can just naturally start looking for the next pylon without having to start jumping in and fiddling with the camera all the time. It's funny, I have a bit of a reflex where I want to do that, and I'm having to fight myself from doing that and just allow myself just to look around. It's great. Really, really impressed. Oh, oof, getting close on that one. And I'll be curious to see where I'm looking. You can see it with the ghost overlay, which is a good bit of fun. As I said, the eye tracking, a feature that you can adjust how much you want it to interfere with your sim. Ooh, we're getting tight. Getting a bit overconfident perhaps in some of these turns. There we go. Looking at the number 4. So yeah, a lot of potential for this, and as I said, later in the video we'll be using this in the Airbus, and I'll be talking about exactly why I think that could be very useful on the channel. Very cool idea. And if something starts to get blocked out of view, oh, let's not focus up on the flying, focus on the flying. If something gets blocked out of view, you can just look around it with this, which is really cool. Ooh, again, pushing that a little bit tight. There's point number 7 over there. Yeah, this is not going to be very good times, I suspect, given how how aggressively I'm flying. We need to be a little bit smoother. As I said, I'm using glasses for this video, as well as I've got the microphone in front of me and the eye tracker is sitting below me and head tracker. So I've got lots of things in the way, and yet it seems to be managing just fine. I'm really pleased with how smooth the head tracking is and how reliable it is. I've been using this in the day. I've got windows right where I record, as you probably saw in the unboxing, and the light has been no issue, as well as at night when it's pitch black, no issue there either. It works in surprisingly low light conditions as well. So yeah, very, very impressed with that too. Right, entering the last lap now. As you can see, I do have a penalty. I managed to hit a pylon, sadly, so that's messed up my times a little bit. That's my yeah, poor showing. It's a hard ask to get all 6 laps done without hitting anything. I've got to say, if we jump outside, you might see. Yeah, look at that speed we're rocketing along at. So yeah, let's see if we can make this last lap count. I don't know where we're going to fit in leaderboard wise like this. Again though, absolutely loving having the head tracking working as well as this. Didn't take any extra effort, didn't have to set up any sort of fancy networks or anything. It just USB, and here we are. No hardware on me at all, nothing to wear. Really impressed. The only thing I did have to do was I had to uninstall OpenTrack. I needed Microsoft Flight Simulator to not see Track IR as an input option. That seemed to be interfering a little bit, but once I did that, no trouble at all. Don't hit it. There we go. Ooh, that's exactly what I did the first time I hit a pylon. And we are done. Well, that's obviously not good enough. Ranking 2,682. No good at all. Lap time, yeah, not great. Not great. Okay, let's have a go at something else. So now, of course, it's time to take the racing P51 or F51, I think it's called, Goldfinger for an actual online race. So we are flying against somebody else here in the multiplayer section with the Reno air races. This seemed like a good fit for the eye tracker because, of course, having that dynamic ability to look around you and be aware of where not only the next turning points are but also the other aircraft is really helped by not having to use another controller or another little joystick or a mouse or anything, and you can just look. So everything you see in the video is me looking just with my head. You'll notice it's really good at centering back to neutral. I've been really impressed with that because the worry is, of course, it won't do that, but I've managed to have no issue always finding it. As long as I have a button for the reset, so you just reset that position at the start of the flight, then it works really nicely. And as you can see here, especially when you're chasing someone down, great that you get to enjoy so much more of the simulator as well, because instead of being stuck with one view and one angle on the instrument panel, it all feels a bit more alive and 3D when you can move your head around like this and get those extra little angles. It's a little bit like virtual reality in that sense, in that you get to see a bit more of what was created. But of course, this is running at full resolution on your monitor as opposed to through the VR headset. So it's really nice for that. I like that you get to sort of appreciate that these aircraft aren't just sort of static. They've got whole cockpits built in. So that's great. And then, yeah, as I say, really fun. As you can see here, just naturally following that airplane with my head or my eyes as well, as you'll see later on. I'll put the ghost overlay on top shortly. But yeah, really a good bit of fun and definitely helpful in the Reno missions as you're trying to swing the airplane around and figure out where that next one is. So here we go, getting a bit close with our friend here, and being able to follow them with your just using your head just to keep an eye on them, and then you can just glance straight back to where you were, completely intuitively. So here I turn on the eye tracking overlay, and again it'll show you quite how accurate it is. It really impresses me that this works. It's such an amazing piece of technology. So you can see me looking at the next gate, and then my eyes will move on to the other aircraft when I spot it over there. It's really still the strangest feeling for me to watch this video back and see it and know exactly where I was looking at the time of recording. So as I said, very useful for those of you streaming, I would have thought, and certainly something I'll be using in the future for videos. I think it's a really cool idea for certain things in particular. Unfortunately, my race didn't go that well. I did eventually run into a crash there, as you saw, which put me behind our friend here. And here we are on the last lap now, and I didn't manage to recover from that moment. So I am just bringing it home as best I can now. We did just have that one incident, although I think the little cross suggests that we did actually cut a pylon earlier as well by mistake, which is not very good. But there we go. So rounds, following them, doing my best to get the tightest in sort of lap on this last one, but just didn't have any sort of ability to make up for the last bit. But as you can see, eyes dancing over to the racetrack mini map, and then looking at our friend over there, and finally flying through the last gates, just focusing on. So what we'll look at next, after that disappointment of a pretty bad time trial and then a not very successful race, is we'll jump into the A320 and fly a circuit. So this won't be a full takeoff tutorial, but what we can do is I'm going to put it on the toe brakes. We're going to look down here, release the parking brake. There we go. And now you'll see where I'm looking. So I'm going to start the chrono. which is running down here. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'll be looking at the speed tape during the takeoff roll, because I want to check A, it comes alive, and B, I'm going to check as we pass through 80 to 100 knots that it does, that as I do that, that's when I'm going to release the side stick from half to neutral. And then I'm also looking down for rotate. You'll notice that in real life, of course, pilot monitoring over there would look on their PFD and call out those calls for us, but we still need to check the 80 to 100 knots. And what if they don't call out the rotate call? What if they're distracted or they've had a heart attack or something? It's important that we are still aware of our speed, so I will be checking that on a normal takeoff anyway. So let's get started. Half side stick forward, 50%, looking over at the engine gauges. This, of course, is just a normal takeoff, but lots of potential exciting things we can do now with failures and so on. There's 50%, releasing the brakes, and 2 clicks forward. Now I'm checking my FMAs, so ManFlex 68 SRS runway auto thrust is blue. Now for most of the takeoff, looking right down the end of the runway up there. Very important that we do that in order to keep the aircraft straight, otherwise you'll find yourself wobbling around a lot. Now checking in on that speed, you'll notice the camera just gently dropping in as we do, 80 to 100 knots, releasing it to neutral. Looking out towards the end of the runway to help us from over-controlling. I won't be glancing at the engine displays, that's for pilot monitoring to do, not for us. Then there's rotate, and getting the nose up, looking outside for the rotation, looking outside, okay, nose is too high, looking in, positive climb, gear up, up comes the gear. And there's my nav FMA, so as you can see, always checking those FMAs, and now following those flight directors. They're going to be your primary reference once you're in the air. So just a little bit of a taster of what we can do with this on the takeoff in the Airbus, which I'm quite excited about. We can start looking at failures, we can start looking at manual flying, ILS flying, the FATO itself, an engine failure on takeoff and how we would manage that. All very cool. So thrust levers back to climb, and then we get thrust climb, climb, and auto thrust. Better actually follow those flight directors if I'm busy looking at them. And we'll put the autopilot one in. So just coming downwind now to line up for our ILS into 04 right at Venice. And something that's quite fun is I can actually have the eye tracking on like this, and I'm going to experiment with this in the future, and then we can see in close up which part of the PFD we're looking at. It is possible through the software to adjust the size of the Ghost as well, and I can change the color of it as well. So if I shrink it down a bit, this would also give us a bit more of a detail on it. Obviously, we'll have to experiment with what we think works best. So yeah, quite a flexible app, and as you can see, I've made it into the pink color, of course. So this is with the head tracking turned off, and then just my eye Ghost effectively showing through. But if you're not creating content, then obviously this is not going to be a primary use case for it. This is just going to be something that I'm looking forward to using on this channel. But for most people, it's the head tracking combined with the eye tracking that's going to be really useful, unless you're looking to analyze where you've been looking. Something I want to point out at this point, specifically in the Airbus, is that training crews in the real airline crews in the simulator, it is quite important that the trainer can actually see where the trainee's eyes are going. So it's a really important part of it. When you're being trained, the trainer actually sits behind you here, either on the jump seat or in the simulators. They can actually move around a bit more easily and get a sense of where you're looking, because you can actually see from behind, you can actually see quite well where someone's looking. So if you see that something's not being done quite right, firstly, you're going to check to see where the trainee is looking to make sure that they are looking in the right place. And that's why it's quite interesting to me to see eye tracking being implemented in this way, because it's now going to reveal to me if I'm not looking in the right place on my videos. So let's arm that and that. What I'm going to do now is we'll fly the ILS, and I'll show you a landing into Venice using the head tracking and the eye tracking. You can see where I'm looking. Okay, then here we are on final. I've got to say, I'm quite impressed with I am very impressed with the accuracy of the tracking, both the eyes and the head tracking. It's got lots of sensitivity options available, so you can adjust this center point and whether you want it to constantly focus on the center or not. I'm going to keep adjusting it to see what feels most natural to me, but I've got to say it's already very usable. I just probably don't need it to swing around quite so much when I'm flying the Airbus, whereas if you're in a fighter jet or something, could be useful, although there's a nice view of Venice to enjoy. But what's really good is the centering back in works really nicely. So let's have a go at the landing. So we're going to do a flat fall landing here into Venice, low auto brake, ECAM memos all green. So that's going to be autopilot off, So remember the landing technique in the Airbus, we've talked about it several times. It's going to be a case of starting to look out more and more as we get lower down towards the runway. And then as we enter the flare, around about 30 feet for a stabilised flare, then we're just going to apply a bit of back pressure just to reduce the rate of descent. And then we're going to idle the thrust levers before touchdown, probably around 20 feet or something similar like that. So there's a few trees in the way there, which is slightly messing with our visual picture. Looking in at the speed though, making sure your vertical profile looks sensible inside, but as I said, as we get lower, more and more focusing in on that, focusing out on the visual picture.
100.
That tree is definitely new, that wasn't there before.
50, 40,
bit of a high sink rate,
20, retard.
idle, getting the power off, a bit of a float because of that power coming on as we lost the height there, and there's the touchdown. Getting the reversers out, still looking out to keep the plane straight, and then we've got speed brakes, reverse green, and decel. And there you go. So as you can see, for the whole flare, it's just looking out. That's all you've got to do. That's how we land the Airbus. Once you're in the flare, you're not looking in at anything. So that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's been a bit different, but certainly something I've been excited to share with you. Thank you again to Tobii for sponsoring this video and sending over the eye tracker. As I said, if you'd like one, there is a link in the description with currently a 15% discount, although that may not be there depending when you're watching this video. But if you're watching this close to release, then that is the link to follow. Last of all, we're just going to finish with a quick message from Tobii. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. There'll be more videos, live streams and guides coming to the channel with all the usual sort of content very soon, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more of that. Lots of exciting things I can think of to do with this new hardware as well. So we'll see you again in another video or live stream soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.